Tonight on the record, the stage is set and the candidates are ready. Tonight's third GOP presidential debate is almost here, and former Hewlett-Packard CEO and 2016 Republican presidential candidate Carly Fiorina rocketed herself up in popularity after the last two debates. So what's her plan for tonight? Carly Fiorina, fresh off her walkthrough of the big stage, goes on the record. Good evening, Carly.
Hi, Greta. How are you?
Good. So you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, this is your bailiwick. This is business. This is economy. So do you feel extra pressure tonight?
No, I don't feel extra pressure, other than I think it's important that Americans understand what's really at stake. And it's more than replacing a D with an R now. The truth is, what ails our economy, what ails our nation, has been going on for a very long time. Has it gotten worse under Barack Obama? Absolutely. But our government has been corrupt for decades now. Middle-class wages have been stagnant for 40 years. We have fewer numbers of people working and more people who have quit working in 40 years, and our government gets more corrupt decade after decade. So this is about a different kind of leadership now.
All right, well, news say the Federal Reserve is leaving the interest rates unchanged. What do you think about that?
Well, shock. I mean, I predicted this months ago. I think, obviously, this is a policy that is helping the wealthy, those who are invested in equities or real estate, and it's hurting the middle class. If you're a retiree trying to save, if you're a young family trying to save for your first home, it's hurting you. This is a policy that is helping the wealthy, as all liberal policies do, actually. It's interesting to note, Hillary Clinton talks about income inequality all the time, but the truth is 95% of the wealth that's been gained over the last several years has all gone to the top 1%. And the zero interest rate policy helps the wealthy and the well-connected. It hurts the middle class and the poor.
You bring up Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She had something to say about big banks and whether she'd let them fail or not. Let's listen to what she had to say.
If you're president,
yes,
and the banks are failing, do we let them fail this time?
Yes.
We let them fail this time.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. First of all, under Dodd-Frank, that is what will happen, because we now have stress tests. Their shareholders have to know that, yes, they will fail. And if they're too big to fail, then under my plan and others that have been proposed, they may have to be broken up.
What do you think about Secretary Clinton saying too big to fail and the banks have to be broken up? Do you agree with her or disagree with her?
Well, here's the thing about Dodd-Frank, which she's all for. Dodd-Frank, which was written in large part by those same Wall Street banks, took 10 banks too big to fail and turned them into 5 even bigger banks with even greater systemic risk. And meanwhile, we have destroyed 1,590 community banks. And it is community banks from which small businesses and families get most of their loans. So once again, under these progressive policies, the big, the powerful, the wealthy, and the well-connected are advantaged, and the small and the powerless are crushed. These are just words from Mrs. Clinton. Every progressive policy she has proposed makes the big banks bigger and more powerful, makes the wealthy and well-connected wealthier and better connected.
But what about the big banks failing? What would be your response? Would you let big banks fail?
Yes, but the truth is these banks are too big and too powerful now, and progressive policies have made them bigger and more powerful. And meanwhile, the smaller banks, like community banks, that are so critical to getting a small business started, and small businesses matter because they create 2/3 of the new jobs. Meanwhile, those small banks have gone out of business. In other words, the big have gotten bigger and the small have gotten crushed. That is the consequence of Hillary Clinton and progressive policies. That is the consequence of Barack Obama, but it is also the consequence of a government that has gotten bigger and bigger and more powerful and more corrupt under Republicans and Democrats alike for 40 years. It's why we need to do something different.
All right. Would a Carly Fiorina Justice Department be any different than this? Recently, the Department of Justice and the Obama administration fined General Motors $900 million instead of sending any executive to a criminal courtroom for all the deaths that resulted from their knowledge of having defective part of their car. Would you go after the individuals, or would you do like the Justice Department did here and fine the corporation $900 million, which essentially I think the shareholders end up paying, or we paying higher prices of cars, but nobody did a perp walk? What would your Justice Department do?
Well, first of all, if someone has broken the law, they need to be held accountable, whoever they are. But this Justice Department is politicized. We know that, unfortunately. I mean, General Motors, Lois Lerner. I doubt very seriously, unfortunately, that Hillary Clinton will be indicted on any criminal charges, although obviously she was trafficking in classified information over an insecure server. She shared classified information with those that were not authorized to see that classified information. I doubt we're ever going to see any charges because President Obama basically told us, oh, no, there was nothing wrong here. Just as he told us there was not a smidgen of corruption in the IRS, we actually know now that IRS officials who break the tax laws, less than 1% of them are ever held accountable. It's part of what has gone on in government for too long. There is no accountability.
The House has a resolution to impeach the commissioner of the IRS. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, unfortunately, I think it is a meaningless gesture because until and unless we cut the IRS down to size, it's sort of like when the head of the VA was fired. You know, the head of the VA was fired, where there were all those dramatic hearings. A bill was passed that said that we could fire the top 400 senior executives of the VA, and yet we now know that 307,000 veterans have died waiting for health care, and there has been basically no reform. That's the problem. There is too much in politics, with Republicans and Democrats alike, that is theater, not substance. We need real reform, and that starts with simplifying the tax code. A 73,000-page tax code gives the IRS way too much power.
Carly, nice to see you, and of course, we'll be watching the debate. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Greta.